How's that? We'll just play it out and see how it goes.
Yeah, that works for me.
So, interesting. There's been a lot of things. Well, it's funny because this weekend I was so full with taking the black belt test that even afterward, like yesterday, I just had no desire to engage in anything. It was just like a total like
Check out.
checkout day. Yeah. After so much focus, and we just had so much. In fact, I was laughing in the car. We went to brunch with my mother as a late Mother's Day thing. And I said to Sierra, I'm like, so, hey, look, we got through finals and graduation and, her orientation and the black belt test. And I said, oh, hey, guess what? We have vacation coming up in a couple of weeks. We can look at that now. And
Yeah.
so it's just been sort of odd. Anyway, but things, of course, when you're not even trying, like they just continue to just pour in, especially now, like I just found, right? So what was interesting, so I'll tell you the side story that led to this. So there's this woman in Taekwondo, in Kung Fu, that there's nothing offensive about it. I mean, she's fine, right? She is, it's really interesting. And I said to my husband, this is what started the whole thing, right? So I was saying to my husband, we were talking, I said, and of course, I honor and respect her. I'm like, and I just can't like her. And I don't know why. Like, it's like, there's just this. And I said, I think it stemmed from this interaction that we had a while back ago. But then I was like, I know there's some other undercurrent between us, right?
Yeah.
Which, of course, is a mirror back to me.
Nothing ever, just the present moment.
Right. So there was something that occurred a while back, and a group of us were practicing the same form, and we had just learned this part, and this was at the very like probably 6 weeks out from the test, where Scott and Sierra and I were getting really focused on training and making sure we knew everything to prepare for the test. So we wanted to make sure we knew everything, and we had broken off, and we were working with a group on a part of a form that we had just learned, and we did it a couple of times. And this woman's like, she's very much the mother hen, and she always wants to be the mother hen. She wants to be the one that tells everybody what to do, and she wants to be the one that teaches everyone and takes them in under her wing. But she was basically the same level belt, but she's been with the school a lot longer, right? So
Okay.
So yeah. So but she really wants to be the mother hen. So every time we break off into groups, if she's there, she automatically goes to the front of the group and starts walking everybody through the form step by step, right? And we did it like twice, and then she's like, okay, let's move on to this now, because I need to work on this form. But everybody in the group, you could tell, is looking around going, no, I really want to we just learned that form. Now, she might have learned it before, so it wasn't all new to her, but it was like still new to everybody there. And there was like one or two others that went off, and they're like, okay, yeah, I want to do that too. But then she's like trying to get everybody to do it that way. And I stopped and I said, nope, we want to do the what we just learned.
Right.
Which caused this little bit of a contention in the group, right? And Scott and Sierra got irritated, but then the two of them are just as apt as I am to just walk off and be like, yeah, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to go practice over here. So we did that, and then a number of others followed us, right?
Right.
And one of the guys who had gone off with the other one, he comes up to us after, and he said, yeah, sorry about that. And I said, no, honestly, the thing is, there's a lot of strong personalities in our group, and it's just sort of like a lot of us have martial arts experience from other, like years of other martial arts experience. So we come to this, from all that same kind of place, and we're really like, assertive and stuff. And I'm like, no, it's okay. I get it, but also don't assume that everybody wants to do the other thing with you when we just learned this other thing, da, da, da. And that was fine, right? So at the end of that class, she walked up to me and she said something, and she goes, well, she's like, well, I can tell you're pissed off. And I'm like, well, I'm not really pissed off. I said,
But
I'm
I
just,
could be.
well, she did, she pushed it. Well, it was funny. I said, I'm not really pissed off. As I said to so-and-so, we just have very strong personalities in this group. And to make the assumption that everybody wants to just move on with what you want to work with is just, like, instead of asking, like, who wants to do this and we can break up into more groups. And then she's like, well, and she said something along the lines of, like, I just don't like when people don't like me. And it was so funny because I was putting away my stuff and I turned around and I looked at her and I said, it doesn't matter whether I like you or not. And I think that really hit her.
Oh, well, yeah.
And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, it doesn't matter whether I like you or not. I was like, what does it matter? I said, we're all here to practice this on our own. And it's not a matter of like a popularity contest. And I said, the key is just for us to collaborate and work together. And I think me saying that to her straight out really hurt her. Right?
Well, because it's not that you were claiming that you didn't like her. You were just claiming that it actually didn't matter one way or the other.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm sure that's not how it was taken.
No, I'm sure not. And I was irritated at the time. And I was like, of course, I'm observing my irritation, because whenever we're irritated, like, it's just sort of, anyway, so that's what started it. She's never been fully comfortable in my presence ever since then.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. And this was probably, like I said, several months ago. And I'm fine. I'm pleasant with her. I'll joke with her like I joke with anybody else in class. It's just, I just don't like, I don't have the need to be under somebody's mother hen's wings or whatever. I go in there and I look at everybody in there as equals, and we're just all at different parts of the same place, right? We're all in there for the same reason, right? So what was so interesting, and Scott said to me over the weekend, he said, I think, and so she actually, I'm not kidding you, she purposely went out west to one of the other locations so that she could take her black belt test a month before us. Like, she went in April, right? So she could sit on the panel to grade us, to judge us, like, and all that kind of stuff. It was just, yeah. And I was like, wow. I'm like, what purpose would there be if the elder masters were coming here in a month? Right. For her to do that. So it was funny because Scott said something along the lines of, he said to me, well, he goes, I think part of it has to do with her ego of, she'd been here a lot longer than us, and we came in and we're basically testing for black belt the same time she is. Right. And I said, well, that's so, like, okay, I can see that. I don't agree with it, because there, like, a lot of us who came in around the same time all had a lot of years of martial arts experience. So of course we're going to move through it faster because we've done it before. Right. Right. So, and she even made a comment like a week ago, or where she's like, oh, well, this will be the last time. And she almost said that I can outrank you in lineup or something. It was so weird. Anyway, so that's not the point. So we're going through all this. And so Scott and I have been talking about that in the car or whatever. And I just said, it was just so odd I'm like, and I observe this woman now, and I don't judge her, but I just see how desperately she needs to have approval from others, and that, so we're talking about that. And I just sort of let it go. I'm like, it's not my circus, not my monkeys. Right. And, so it's funny, because I took a nap yesterday, and I wake up, and as I'm waking up, like, sometimes you get the best downloads, like in that in-between state. Yeah. All of a sudden I see it really clearly, is that she's really upset. Yeah, for whatever her egoic reasons are, that's fine. But it's all because we came in and sort of upset her apple cart, right? And
everything the way she wanted it.
Yeah.
And then you showed up.
Right. And for some reason, it's more personal with me because I'm a woman, right? And so what's interesting is, also at the same time, that became a very small piece of, this is the energy I've brought into this life. For my entire life, I have come in and upset the apple cart. And I've always been resented for it. Whether it's, open or it's subtle. It's usually subtle, you know?
Yeah, and I'm hearing, why can't you just go along to get along?
Yeah. And
I'm hearing that also for me.
Yeah.
Is given everything here, it's like, why can't you just keep doing what you've been doing, which was smothering me?
Right. And why can't you understand with this person's thing? Like, why can't you understand my need to be the mother? Like, why can't you understand?
And why can't you allow me to have what I need?
Right.
Get in line.
In sacrifice to what
exactly.
Right. So I was like, wow, like so huge, because then I could see it all through my life, all through, like when I was a kid, I was friends with all different people. Like I never fell into like a clique or a group. I always was friends with people just because I liked them.
Yeah.
Because they were like friends with somebody, whatever.
Yeah.
And I would have parties and invite people who never would otherwise socialize, but because I'm like, well, I like you, so what does it matter,
Right.
And then just like in corporate in my early career, I was like the woman manager that pushed through, and like while there was still the big boys club, and I worked in companies where it was really a strict boys club still, like Wall Street and high tech and all that kind of stuff. And it was like, because back in the late 80s, early 90s, it was still very much that way. And it was like, I'm like, okay, you can go and do whatever you need, spend your whatever days a week playing golf. I'm just going to go get the work done. And then I would be resented for being promoted because I did it, because I got the work done. Right. And then there was another group one time that I was like, everybody would kiss up to the director and go play golf with him. And I'd be like, yeah, no, what else is there to do? Cause I don't play golf. Doesn't do anything for me. And then eventually it came to this place where it would be like our group would split off, and it would be like, what else is there to do? Because they realized, oh wait, she's not having to go play golf with the boss, and she's not getting dinged about it. So I'm going to go with her because I'd rather not play golf, and stuff like that. And so all of this stuff. And then the big like aha was has been the challenge with Trinity, right? Upsetting the apple cart, right? We're taking away ritual and ceremony. We're taking away a whole process. We're taking away all these steps, all of these hierarchies.
And when you think about the people who step out of all that rigidity, is what I see it as, almost get, I don't want to say smacked down, but then they retreat back and find themselves more successful, not teaching Trinity by name, but like Reiki, from a place of Trinity.
Right.
Because that doesn't upset that apple cart.
That doesn't upset the apple cart. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, that's so huge. Right. And I'm like, I don't even know what to do with that. Cause I'm like, well, like, I'm totally okay, obviously, with like upsetting the apple cart, because I've done it my entire life. And I'm always just sort of like, I don't go out of my way to do it, but I'm just sort of like, well, if this doesn't work for me, then why do I do it? I'm not going to do it this way. But also it sort of gave me a little bit of something to look at for today. And I put it on the shelf until we came here today, because it was like, well, not just for me, but, for Trinity, but there's also something at the much bigger level, obviously, for us to talk about, because the Trinity thing, the question that I've asked for so long is how do we move forward with this? Like, and why has there been such, it's almost like, because here's the thing, a year after I started doing this full time was when Trinity came into me. Right. And I know that others in this area, like, it's really funny, though the other spiritual leaders in my geographical area are all like in acceptance of it and honor it. Like, I've always felt this resistance, and like, they won't suggest it. They won't promote it.
Right.
Like, it's okay for me to promote their stuff, but not okay for them to promote my stuff.
Right.
And there's always been this like undercurrent feeling of, who are you to be so young, to do this so quickly, and to start your own practice like this?
And to come in and wreak havoc in what I've worked hard to create.
In all these years. So I'm like, wow, that's a big, like, and it's almost like I knew it, but I never saw it. And then I was like so thankful to this woman for helping me to bring that up to the surface, because I'm like, so now what do I do with this? Because it's like, okay, so what is it to shift? Because this feels really big for us to shift.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I know that this is a different version of it, but when Frank came home this weekend, he was exhausted. He had had a huge week and had been, putting out fires and doing all kinds of stuff. And then on top of that, been having to, I don't want to say entertain, but that really is the word, people who had come in from outside of geographically. So he was expected to kind of entertain them in the evening or to have dinner meetings or whatever. And there's no restaurants or whatever in that area. So it was like a 2.5 hour drive. And you don't finish dinner till 10. So you're getting home at 12:30, and he did that like 3 nights in a row. And he literally, I've never seen him so vacant because he was just exhausted. And it was this overwhelming wave that came over me. It's like, why do they get to set the tone? Why is it not like, well, I just don't do that, so we're going to do this? And it's because it's upsetting that business Applecart.
Absolutely. Yep.
But I was like, you're supposedly the big man. So why is it that your energy doesn't set the tone? Why are you allowing them to have that power over you?
Well, because it's the belief that if I don't do this, then I won't be the big man anymore.
Right.
Versus I'm the big man because I do it differently.
Right.
Like,
which was the point I kept trying to make. And it was very much like, I have no bandwidth to consider what you're saying. And I truly understood that that's where he was, but that just kept like ping ponging around in my brain all weekend long going, okay, where else is that showing up for me? And it really is everywhere.
Everywhere in everything we do. And it goes back to this, believing, we're worthy because of how somebody else perceives us. Right.
Right.
And it's funny because it goes back to this woman, and I mean, literally she's sidling up to the elder master, and it's just sort of like, wow, because she so desperately needs to come out ahead of everybody else, like the group that, came through. And it's like,
because other people's perception define her.
Yeah. Period. Because I mean, she's so driven by it. And it was so funny because of course, Scott, who I love when he does this, when I was first talking about before this whole epiphany came to me, he goes, so what does that reflect back to you? I'm like, I keep on asking that because she still irritates me. So obviously there's still something. And it's like, oh, okay. It's not that, it's not her that irritates me. It's that whole energy of giving away our power.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like,
and it's so disempowering.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the irritation comes in, is from the perspective of, I'm striving to reinstate that power that's already here through acknowledging it, and to see something that's so in your face disempowering.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, so, and it is, and it's all these things. And I was like, wow. So what is there to do about that? Because, I don't mind, like, I'm all about my entire life. Like, it is it's a part of my natural fabric to just do it as my heart tells me to do it versus like what everybody's telling me. Right. That's been my entire life. So maybe is it a collective lesson on, there's something to shift so that the reception of it is different. So that I don't get punished for
being the messenger.
Right. For being the messenger, for being the reminder, and not just me, but then everybody else who are have that same energy, because that's the whole thing is when we went through this several years ago, on having that realization of that there's a number of us that carry this specific seed we brought in from elsewhere of remembrance to help, like everybody's got their job doing this. Everybody who's here is doing a specific job to help us move into this next place. And so maybe it's those of us who brought this like seed of remembrance, because we know that, of course, what is that? That goes back to the angels of destruction, that we had to upset the apple cart, to change the way it's done, to hold the energy for others to remember that we can do it differently, right?
Right.
And not be punished for it, right?
Right.
And it goes back to like how much work so many of us have had to do about Jesus and, the idea of the crucifixion, or being burned at the stake, or, being banished or exiled or killed because of that. Right.
Yeah. Well, and I know this fits, and these are the things that the messages which I've been looking at, that came Friday. I was mowing the backyard, and I was doing it in the afternoon instead of the morning. So I was pegged physically. It was so hot, and the grass was thick, and I was bagging and all this kind of stuff. And normally I'm paying attention, but I didn't catch it in time. This snake about literally this long crawled in front of my path, and I went right over it. And I just was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I had been to bowl meditation, and I was like, okay, clearly that was a message for me.
Right.
And so I, kind of put that on the shelf. And I actually hadn't thought about it until early this morning when I got up and went out and was looking at the pool and walked around the corner to where I could see just on the other side of the hot tub, big dead bunny in the pool.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. So here I have those two both dead.
Right.
And it's like, to me that said, okay, it's the death of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
The snake and the rabbit, the fertility of the rabbit and the destruction of the snake, and then it was like it was the full scope.
Right.
That everything
right.
is changing. And I was like, and I didn't really see it so much as death,
mm-hmm.
but ending.
Yeah, it's like it's we're done with this. And so this whole energy, and of course that totally ties in, because it's like it's time to let go of this lesson of being punished for upsetting the apple cart.
Well, the things that I wrote down before we got on.
Well, just 2 seconds, there was a thought
Sure.
with that. So last week we talked about how alignment, we used the word alignment, but alignment really is seeing the bigger picture and it not being a linear thing, right?
Right.
And that's really what I'm sort of getting, is this is related in some way, that alignment has spurred off the remembrance of this.
Right.
To be in that full alignment, we need, it's the importance of allowing us to not make it an apple cart, but to make it a pumpkin cart if we want to,
Well, and I was reading last week's, and I wrote, release the judgment, releases the behavior. And so when you think about what you just said a few minutes ago about being punished, isn't that just a judgment?
Well, it is. So it's being judged for doing it.
Right.
Like, well, and it's the same thing of the passive aggressiveness of the people who, like, other leaders in the spiritual community going, no, like, you can promote my stuff, but I'm not going to promote your stuff.
Right.
And the discomfort of somebody saying, I don't want to be punished or judged because I'm bringing something different to the table. So I'm going to make it look like something else and dumb it down, so I don't feel like I'm so different and people don't think I'm so different, and then therefore they don't judge me and shy away from me because.
I can just do this not having to answer for or prove its validity.
Right.
Because if I just stay in this box, then nobody asks me those questions.
Right.
So this morning, the things besides the rabbit and the snake and all that is I've been seeing ants everywhere outside. Ants. And it's like, I really should be paying attention to where they're going and what they're doing, but there's I know that there's an army of them, so it's kind of overwhelming.
Right.
And then I still have physically hives, just intense hives. So both of those things are not earth-shattering, not life-threatening, just kind of irritations.
Well, and hives are sort of like having ants on your skin.
I know. So, in tuning into both of those energies, it's like I just feel like they're nitpicks and distractions. So what came to me was I'm ready to use all of me, all the tools that are me.
Mm-hmm.
Which, whether it's manifesting, creating, all of it. I'm ready for all of it. Mm-hmm. And I'm ready for it to support me now.
Cool.
And, so I started saying, well, how would I phrase that? And I kept saying, looking at them as tools or whatever you want to call them, or facets or vibrations, or, and it was like, I want to integrate them. I want to acknowledge them. I want to be them. I want to allow them. I want to hear them. I want to know them. I want to love them. And I wonder if that's just what I was feeling, because all of those will upset the apple cart. Mm-hmm. Doing that does upset the apple cart.
Well, and we have so many apple carts, right?
Right. But I'm so almost angry with being held back anymore.
Well, and I realize now the connection of this, how much it's bigger than a bread box, and why I have felt, and probably you too, because I know you've gone through the same thing. I have retreated a lot in the past 6 months because I'm just tired of the same old that I keep on seeing, that I've, kept on seeing. Right. And which of course was a judgment of my own, but it was like, well, how do I even say anything that's going to be heard above all this chatter? And it's presented in a way that seems to be different, but it's always got these little tiny things that keep the apple cart in place. Right.
Right.
It's like pretending. It's like we're pretending, we're fooling ourselves, thinking we're doing it differently, but we're really not. We're just giving a different name, right? In a different way we're doing it. So, and I think that's really been a part of why I have stepped back, which is funny because I've just said, okay, I'm done, because I'm just going to go forward and do whatever feels like it's time for me to do, and to allow the universe to support me with that, and to allow all the possibilities so that comes to play. And I could see how that all comes together to say, okay, well, then this big hunk of, obstacle that you've come across or had to fight against. Well, that was weird. I have a new phone that makes new noises, and now I have to turn off my sound. Hold on a second.
Either that, or it was just saying, yep, you're on it.
That was obviously right. I'm totally on the right track, right? Yeah. So it's changing everything. Here's your big hunk of the one thing that you can just save a whole lot of energy if you don't have to fight against anymore. Right? So whatever it is for us to do, and maybe that's what we do today, is whatever it is for us to do to be this, to embody fully what we came here to embody in a way so that we're free of that 1,000-pound weight that holds us back.
Yeah. I'm so done with the struggle.
Right. And I think the thing is, my entire life, I have never accepted what was told to me. Right. I've never accepted what I was told.
Especially
I had to.
If it was, you can't do that.
Yeah. Oh, and actually it was almost like saying the opposite to me. It was like, okay, you told me I
Right.
can't do that. Well, let me show you how I can. Right.
Yep. Yep.
And then
Okay, you just hold that while I go do it.
you just go have a beer and I'll tell you later on. So, so it's such an embedded part of me that I do not see it. It's that gravity thing. I
Right.
don't see that I'm always prepared for a battle. I'm always prepared to push forward through all of the shit that's around me, right?
You're expecting to have to push through it, so that creates it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think many of us hold that energy of, okay, brace ourselves, because it's going to be chaos. And we've been saying that, right?
Yep.
So,
Which, if you think about it, if it's really already here and it's just a question of coming to a place of being able to see it,
mm-hmm.
that fits perfectly with this, because we're expecting to have it be hard and push through it, and the opposition and all that. So that keeps it in that separate place,
right?
Or the vision of it being separate.
Instead of saying, okay, we're just shifting things and the changes are natural. Think of how much energy that will save.
Oh, I know. Which, is the fatigue that I feel all the time, it seems.
Yeah. Oh God, this just feels huge and awesome as we're even talking.
Well, it's funny. The card I drew before we got on was the Chariot of Ascension, which is
I know the Chariot card. Yeah.
The Merkaba.
Mm-hmm.
Merkaba. Your soul wishes to travel more freely between dimensions of higher reality. This is to allow the conscious spirit communication, the free flow of soul light into the physical body, and the joining in divine harmony of heaven and earth. So.
Oh, yeah. And when you say that, what comes to my mind is I am allowed to proceed in my, in the completion of my journey, however I want to put this. In freedom, ease. It's like, and we've said this, but it means something so different. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm allowed to, I'm worthy to, I remember how to, and I allow myself to proceed in the completion and the realization,
the wholeness.
And the wholeness, right, of what I came here to be and do. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I'm allowed to do that freely and easily and with fun and totally, totally. And everything is aligned. There's the alignment part that ties in. Everything is aligned.
And that's the support.
That's to support
the alignment.
Yep. Oh, that feels awesome.
It does. I feel like I'm shaking off something that, it's like I've been wearing the trench coat with all the pockets that have been full of like lead.
And you just got used to carrying it around because it's always been part of you, right? Well, and that would probably explain why the more many of us progress, then there's the weight gain thing, right? Because it's the literal weight that we hold ourselves down with, right? That's another level of it. And it's funny because I have this year finally been shrinking, as I call it, physically. But, and my goal is to shrink to the place where I feel very, in equilibrium and vibrant and
right.
And I've been saying easily and easily and flowingly and in a vibrant way, and not to have to get sick or have like that kind of stuff,
right?
Like, and this is the first it's actually started working, and it's almost like every step these big things come up, like, okay, so then let go of this, or let go of this, or don't carry this weight around anymore. But this seems like this is like the core foundation, because it is, and I've been shown this so much this year, and I just realized it, and how many people I talk to, and I'm like, how I can see when we just let go of these things that we put so much energy to that are really useless in terms of our journey, right? That just impede it, how much more energy we have freed up to actually do it, right? And be.
Right. Right.
So yeah, this feels awesome. Oof. And to be able to remember that wholeness in that freedom, right? To remember, because I know the ego wants to go, but then who are we? Because we've always fought the wave, and we've always blah 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 blah, and it's like, yeah, I don't need to do that anymore. It doesn't need to be my identity anymore. I can just do and be freely and not have any like resistance, and be completely supported. And it can be so easy that it's just like, blip, it's there and
It's
done.
done.
And yeah, and in place. Oh yeah, let's go do that. That feels, I can just feel that shifted a whole bunch of stuff already.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
Now that I could do all week.
Oh, no kidding. No kidding.
And then I was reminded in the very beginning of that, I was like, so I could see all this stuff falling, just like washing away. It was like, you know, when you have like, when you get so dirty, you've been outside, you have like all this stuff all over you, just like at some point you just don't care. And then it washes away and you're like, oh my God, I feel like a new person. You're like seeing it all wash away. So I first went through that. And then I went back to a dream that actually spurred the download yesterday that I had forgotten about, that I had been having when I took my nap, which was in the dream, I was sitting outside the Oval Office with this woman from from Kung Fu, and she and I both had to go in front of Trump and do a form, and he had to put in his like a judgment or whatever, his rating on that. I had totally forgotten about the dream, and I got and then when I saw that, I was like, okay, and then it just expanded out, and I saw it's the same thing. For us to allow this whole shift is to wash away all the things that are putting so much pressure and energy against change, right? So like then I saw very clearly about Bernie Sanders, right? And why he was, you know, like, and how he sort of got drowned in that energy. And it was like, oh, like, you know, and so then we went to political, you know, to the political like level and to the environmental level. And it was just like all these things of resistance just washing away and washing away. And I was like, wow, this could go on and on and on. And everything I watched doing that just felt better and better and lighter. And it was like, oh, let's just let it all wash away, shall we?
Right. I kept seeing all these possibilities, and then I would feel the mind try to come in and clamp it and you know, go, but and how would that, and what, and I just kept saying, you know what? I'm focusing on this. I don't need that part. That is the limiting factor.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that tried to flow through or was coming through, the mind was like, well wait, I have to, and it was like, shh. Oh, it worked. It worked. It was, and I felt the connection to everyone, particularly everyone not here.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And it was not necessarily like, oh, there's mom, there's dad, there's grandma, you know, it wasn't that. It was like, and there I am, and there I am,
right.
and there I am. And it was like, it was allowing that connection. And the words that came to me were, embrace your vibration of all that is. So it's allowing all of who you are, allowing access to all of who you are.
And simultaneously all of who you are, allowing the full flow into that, instead of like the pieces of resistance, which is, you know, personified by the energy, which is what I saw too. Is like, I saw like things like, oh yeah, the story of Moses parting the Red Sea, right? And it was like standing in front of it, and it was almost like I saw a sea of faces standing in front of me, and I was like, these are all me.
Right.
So there can't be any resistance in that recognition.
Right. Unless I'm resisting myself.
Right. And so it was like, and as soon as I did that, it started to open, like, you know, that whole, like that wall just started to open, and then it just started to like turn into a liquid and just flow away. Cause then there was no separation in it. There was no resistance. I was like, this.
Exactly. This right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wow, this is just a different level entirely.
Well, and I really think it came from last week's alignment.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, this is all like, because I could see how everything we've been looking at just builds on the next piece. And I was like, whoa, this is awesome. So we shall see what this this week brings. Wow, this is incredible. It makes me so excited. Like, oh wow, it's almost like, yay, all this energy to do all this other stuff.
Well, and it's that feeling of that potentiality in everything.
Yep.
Whereas before it was like, well, there was the potential, but then it was underneath all the layers of what we just got rid of.
Yep.
Don't even need to name it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and it was just like I could see it. Like I said, just that one example came to mind with Bernie Sanders, but there's like so many around the world. There's so many examples of that, and it's like, wow. So when we stop, yeah, it's just, there's no words to that. And there is Share Friday night, so I can't wait to have this discussion.
Right.
So, which means there's going to be like, even more, which will be great. So powerful. All right. Well, everybody have a great week on that. We'll see you next time. Enjoy.